So my name is Derek Fandel. I'm the Executive Vice President of TRI Implants USA. I head up the entire division of TRI across the USA and moving into North America next year. And I have the pleasure of co-hosting this webinar, masterclass with my good friend, Dr. Logan Locke. I asked Dr. Locke a couple months ago if he'd be interested in highlighting some of the fantastic FP1 cases that 3-on-6 providers really showcase throughout the US and how they take care of their patients. And FP1, as I can see over the last 10 years, is probably the fastest growing, arguably the fastest growing trend in full arch dentistry. A lot of doctors think that FP1 is a longer process to teeth, which, maybe is a reflection on the patient care, where FP3 cases are much faster time to teeth, and that's what patients want is speed. Dr. Locke will show you today and disprove that myth that you can do an FP1 case far superior with the 3-on-6 technique and probably faster time than an FP3 case. And so I'm going to kick off today with a little bit of background on TRI. I'll take about 15, 20 minutes here to kind of walk through the system on TRI and our biggest value propositions and why TRI is disrupting the market. And then I'll hand it off to Dr. Logan Locke. And Dr. Locke will walk us through some fantastic cases on FP1, but not just FP1 full arch, but FP1 inclusive of 3-on-6, meaning 6 implants with 3 bridges, and why that's so significant. And I look forward to seeing his presentation, you know, looking forward to him walking through your presentation tonight. So I'm going to share my screen now and we'll get going. Can you see that, Dr. Locke? Just thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to focus today on the Matrix implant lines. We have 2 implants out, the Matrix 1, which is the primary implant that's been in the market, and I'll kind of walk through what that looks like here momentarily. And then in 2 weeks, we are fully launching our new X-Force implant, which is highlighted here in this video, in this image here on the home screen. So TRI, everything we do it speaks digital now. TRI is a 12 to 13-year-old company roughly that started in Switzerland, and primarily was in Europe until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we launched in the US, just over 2 years actually, 2 years and 2 months. We launched in the US with the Matrix line implants. The Matrix implant's been out for 5 years. And I'll walk you through what the Matrix implant really is when we say digital. Every other company on the market today is taking their analog-based implants that are, 10, 15, 20-year-old implants and smashing them together in digital technology. We started to do that, but over around 2020 to 2021, TRI actually launched the Matrix implant thinking digital because the implants we had at TRI were not digital inclusive of workflows. We were trying to mash things together. So they scrapped all that, put together the Matrix implant with the power base that I'll show you here. And this implant is 100% digital focused. You place the implant in the mouth, everything from that point forward is digitally mined, digitally scanning, printing, milling. We like to joke around that there's a shoebox of impression copings laying around somewhere. If you needed to take an impression coping, we probably could find one for you, but that's not the type of company we are. We are focused digitally minded. We're Swiss quality. Everything we do is manufactured and developed through Switzerland, and now with an American influence with some of our key opinion leaders. And then most importantly, I think is simplicity. At the end of the day, why would you want to use a different system if it's not simpler for you, simpler for your staff, and most importantly for your patient? I think we have the easiest system in the market today. We sell implants and we sell screws. We do not have abutments. We are an abutmentless company. And I'll speak to full arch for a moment about why abutments are a problem. Multi-unit abutments have been around a long time, and we know that multi-unit abutments do a few things that help traditional dentistry, right? We correct the angles of implants. You put the implants on an angle to improve the AP spread. You put the multi-unit abutments on. Those multi-unit abutments come in 0, 17, 30, and sometimes 45 degrees. They're also transferring the mechanical load from the implant to the abutment because those implants are not designed to really be seated at implant level with prosthetics. Internal hex, external hex, you're raising the implant platform to the tissue level anyways to make it more hygienic. These are some of the things that the multi-units solve, essentially, of what traditional dentistry is. And then we know what the complications are. If you're in this webinar tonight, I can guarantee you that you have seen these complications between tie bases debonding off of full arch zirconia, excess cement challenges and problems on single tooth and full arch, incorrect selection of heights. How many of you, you can think about for a moment, have seated multi-unit abutments, and before you go to final, you're taking your multi-unit abutments off and swapping them out with a different size, different angle, different position because we weren't able to get the right choice at the time of surgery, which again drives the cost up even further. More bone reduction typically. So you're actually looking at reducing bone so you can fit the multi-unit abutments on on top of the implant for the prosthetics. And I think personally, the biggest challenge in the industry today is screw loosening. Screw loosening and screw breakage because of the micro screws. These screws are a problem. These screws have been developed in the last 5 years, have exploded from Rosen screws, Vortex, Tornadoes, Des, Nobel, PRH 30, 30s, and so on. There's so many different prosthetic screws on the market you can think of. And which ones are really FDA approved for final restorations? I challenge you to look at the screws that you're using and are they FDA approved for final restoration? Many of them are not. These screw loosening and breakage is a nuisance. You're seeing the patient's back, the patient's experience goes down. Another problem with multi-unit abutments is added inventory. If you look at your implant cabinet today, how many implants do you have on the shelf matching multi-unit abutments, right? A lot of inventory, a lot of cost. And most importantly, this is added inventory control for your staff. Your staff and your team members have to inventory these items and order more parts and pieces, which with TRI you don't have to do. Other problems with multi-unit abutments, which most of you have probably seen this, that's in full arch today, choosing the wrong multi-unit abutment and you have tissue shrink. What are you going to do to change that, right? Tie bases be debonding on bridges or full arch cases. This is the problem. With the TRI implant, we are the only FDA-approved abutment-free system in the world. Every other implant is doing it off a label. They're not truly FDA approved to go directly to the implant. We are. And as you can see here on the pink collar, that is actually a multi-level collar that I'll get into here in one moment. But combined with that 2.8 millimeter bolt screw, we're getting rid of the little prosthetic screws. We don't make little prosthetic screws. Nothing that we produce on prosthetics take those prosthetic screws. Our system is combined with this 2.8 millimeter bolt screw. And if you think about it for one moment, there's some mini implants on the market or small diameter implants that are 3.0. There's actually a 2.9 millimeter implant on the market today. Our bolt screw is 2.8 millimeters thick and it's 8 millimeters long. And here's a great comparison to show you. This is the game changer for you and your patients and giving you the peace of mind that when you seat your prosthetic and your patients go home and they're wearing and tearing on these prosthetics, these things are not going to break. They will not come loose. If it's seated correctly, torqued down to 35 Newton centimeters, you will not see screw loosening or screw breakage with the TRI system. In just comparison again, the prosthetic screw to the 2.8 millimeter bolt screw, what would you rather have in your mouth or your patient's mouth? This here is our multi-level. It's the Matrix power base. It's designed for zirconia or titanium. However, our primary focus is on zirconia crowns and zirconia restoration seating directly on top of the power base. The power base is a 20-degree conical connection. It just does not go deep into the implant. And the way we designed this, as I mentioned earlier, we scrapped everything on the previous implants and went to a new design for digital dentistry, is the way they designed this with the thickness and how that 20-degree conical connection seats the crown seats inside the implant. It doesn't go deep into the implant on purpose because you're taking away titanium off the implant sidewall and you're removing zirconia material off the crown if it goes too deep, which causes fractures. And for those of you that may have had zirconia abutments or zirconia crowns on a deeper conical connection implant, 99% of the time you saw fractures. And that's the exact reason why, is because the crown would go deeper into the implant on the sidewall is too thin and it would fracture off. The other reason that would happen on other systems is because the screws are too small. The screws, even abutment screws, are small. They're 1.4 to 1.6 millimeters. Our screw being at 2.8 millimeters is very robust. So when you put torque down that screw, you're not getting a lot of lateral forces that are causing screw loosening and potentially crown breakage. These crowns do not break when they're made properly and polished. And everything we do with our laboratories that we train is highly polished emergence profiles not glazed, highly polished, so that you get that epithelium attachment around that crown as well. And I'll show a case here momentarily that you'll see the bone is actually growing inside of this collar. One thing to highlight, and this is one of the key takeaways tonight, is these collars are not polished. These are machine finished and anodized, and you will see bone that will grow inside the collar right along that concavity all the time. We have x-rays after x-rays, and Dr. Locke will show you some of those cases as well. Within being digital company with the Matrix, we like to think in applications. So everything we do is around an app, just like your phone. If you pick up your cell phone, you have different applications and programs on your phone. You just click on the app and you open it from social medias to camera, etc. These are our applications and growing. Currently, we're at 14 applications. There's highlighted 12 here. But these are I'll walk you through a few of the applications in digital dentistry today, which is Scan and Smile. We'll talk about the DHCs, which is the digital healing collars, ScanBridge, and a few other ones we'll highlight as well with AI crown design that just launched. We're now able to take any patient with AI crown design, you place the implant, scan it with the scan body. You can have an AI digital crown back in 1 minute, and you could 3D print it on Sprint Ray in roughly 7 minutes. Theoretically, you could seat that crown, put the implant, and seat the crown within 30 minutes or less, depending on your speed of placing implants. And that patient can walk out with a tooth the same day with AI crown design. TRI is also a fully open system. Our scan bodies are fully open. We give you all the digital files you need from 3Shape to exocad so that you can design. We're a plug and play implant system. We're not here to handcuff you into an ecosystem that you don't want to be in. The only thing you have to do is place the TRI implant, you scan it, and any of these operating systems or technologies that are in the market today, from intraoral scanners, photogrammetry, implant planning softwares, all the way to robotic surgery. We are in the software now. And we had a big announcement about a week ago that Yomi, through Neosis, updated their software, and TRI implants are now inside the Yomi software as well for those Yomi users in the market. So let's talk about Tooth in a Box, which is just basically Scan and Smile. Tooth in a Box and Scan and Smile, we developed. This is the old version, which was 1 hour. We're doing it in 30 minutes now. I'll highlight a single tooth here. I'm going to kind of steer away from full arch because I don't want to take away Dr. Logan Locke's thunder, but full arch is definitely in our wheelhouse, but the single tooth is the bread and butter. This case here I'm going to show you is done by our good friend Dr. Ryan Dunlop in Central California, and this is actually his father-in-law. His father-in-law broke a tooth down in LA. His father-in-law drove up to Fresno. He saw his father-in-law, took out the root, drilled this out, placed the TRI matrix implant in the central here. And this is the simple workflow after it's placed. You place the implant, torque it down, you get high initial stability. You scan it with the scan body in the bottom left corner. He's using his 3Shape Trio scanner. And then he just put a little comfort cap. So the top central photo is just a little tissue comfort cap while the crown's being made. That's all that is. Then he sends this over to design, and within 1 minute he can have a design back, and then within I think 10 minutes he printed this crown. So a little post processing, you got to cure it and glaze it, but theoretically, call it 12 to 15 minutes, you're having a temporary, beautiful, customized temporary crown ready to seat in that patient's mouth. And I want you to highlight, for those of you seeing the x-ray here, he did place the implant roughly at bone level, okay? And you can see the concave shape, it's down on the bone, and right next to a competitor implant of Neodent, mind you, and I'll show you the final x-ray here momentarily. So within 30 minutes, this patient's walking out the door with a beautiful temporary in the mouth and healing up. With the TRI system, because you have the ability to scan the patient the day of, seat the crown, look how beautiful this tissue development is. Because he's using the TRI matrix implant combined with the Onyx Tough 2 resin, he's able to print that Onyx Tough 2 resin that actually is biocompatible and gets epithelium attachment. This patient develops beautiful tissue around that single tooth. He mills the final crown, finishes the final crown that you see here in the bottom photos, and the patient goes home after torquing in the final crown. And I'll show you here, 6 months later, you can see the bone that is lapsing and growing inside that concave shape of that collar. And we have a 5-year follow-up. I'll show you here at the end of the presentation. We have a 5-year casebook that's coming out that's showing tons and tons of bone growth on top of that collar, that you do not get bone loss down to that first thread. That is not something that TRI implants are designed for. And you can see, arguably right next to the Neodent, that the TRI matrix has a better has a better x-ray and better tissue development, especially as I showed you with that socket. So patient goes home with the final crown. So the old world, you would analog, place the implant, take an impression, maybe use some of those temporary abutments, get a shell tooth, very archaic, very time consuming. In the new world, you're placing the implant, scanning it, having it designed with AI, and printing that crown within 7 to 10 minutes. It is that fast and predictable. Moving over to our digital healing collars. These things are awesome. What we do here is we provide these cards for you in an STL file that you can print in your office if you have a printer, or in your first order, we give them to you for free on a couple sheets. And these are anatomical shaped anterior bicuspid molar digital healing collars. So every single case that you do that has the ability to place a healing abutment, now you can use a digital healing collar. These are printed in Onyx Tough 2 material. So you'll see that epithelium attachment happen to this as well, just like a titanium healing abutment you would if it's brand new. So we're getting really good sealant around those healing collars, why the implant heals. And I'll show you a couple good cases here from our good friend Dr. Shivan Patel in Chicago. Here's a molar case that's he used a digital healing collar on to really develop that tissue and that emergence profile. And here it is with the final crown. Oop, and there's it with final crown. These digital healing collars are game changers. Here's another case of his. He went on ahead and took a shade. He put in the implant. The patient did not like the white healing collar, so Dr. Shivan Patel took it back out, stained and glazed it to an A4, and then put it back in. Very simple. Took him a couple minutes to stain and glaze it with your stain and glaze kit, but that's capable. So you can do that if you want to customize these digital healing collars. These are obviously case selective. You get initial stability with the implant, patient compliance. You still, have to go through your checklist if you're going to use these or not. They are 6 millimeters tall. So if you want to reduce them, they're Onyx Tough 2. You can reduce them down too. You can shrink them down. Next is on full arch. I'm going to skip through the full arch a little bit, but full arch is very capable. I'm going to highlight 2 points here about full arch dentistry because I know what's on their mind about multi-unit abutments. You do not need multi-unit abutments with TRI matrix implants, and I'll show you why. You can put the implants on an angle, 30 degrees, 35 degrees, does not matter, and you'll still have significant path of insertion, and that prosthesis will fit just fine. And I'm going to show you that right here. Oops. So this is highlighting the matrix implant being placed, and you can do up to 50-degree divergence between implants and still get passivity. The way the power base is designed with that 20-degree conical connection being shallow, this is why you can insert a prosthesis just fine and get passive fit. Now, with the screw access holes, when we use exocad software, we change the angulation of the screw channel anywhere it needs to be, basically making it ideal. Wherever that screw channel needs to be ideally, that's what we do in software. So that will work with your designer or our designer to figure out where those access channels need to be. So if you have posterior implants on a 30-degree angle, our software will move those access screw channels 30 degrees back to the central fossa of the crowns, and you'll be able to have no issues with the access hole at all. So we have angulated screws on those bolt screws as well. It's a different screw. So we do sell the 2.8 millimeter bolt screw. The angulated screw is called an ASC screw. That is a 2.6 millimeter screw, still very thick, 2.6 millimeters. This is 0.2, a little bit thinner. That's just so it can turn inside those screw canals as well. And I'm sure Dr. Locke will highlight a few of those. As I'm wrapping up the last few things about TRI and some of our biggest value propositions about being no abutments, the 2.8 millimeter bolt screw, scan bridge is a game changer as well. For those of you that don't have photogrammetry, we give these for free. This scan bridge, and I'll show you a case here in the next slide. These scan bridges come in a bag for you, and you can see all the little triangles and squares and sharp angles. We will teach you how to connect scan bridge to our scan bodies that you can use in lieu of photogrammetry for your temporaries and your immediate cases. Okay. If you use ScanBridge for finals, it's still very recommended that we do a verification jig. But for those of you that don't have photogrammetry, it's a great workaround, and they're free. We don't charge for them at all. So for full arch, I'll show you here. You just connect these, you scan it, and this gives you a very accurate fit, especially for your provisionals being 3D printed. There's no issues at all. We have hundreds of customers using these every single week. And because it's free, these are actually a really good resource to use, a product to use on top of photogrammetry. So if you actually have photogrammetry and then you're going to do your tissue scans, you can use these as well on top of that. It helps just pick up different indications within the tissue. Moving forward here to limits. When we talk about angulations with no multi-unit abutments, the limitations is not the TRI implant. The limitations really is about your milling machines. So those of you that are milling in-house or have a dental lab, it really depends on what those milling machines can mill. Most of the roll-ins and some of the, good milling machines on the market can only mill up to like 30, 35 degrees. Some of the milling machines, the newer ones that we use, especially some of the really good ones like 8-ites and stuff, we can mill up to 75, 80 degrees in some of these new milling machines. So it just really becomes the milling machine's limitation on what is a passive fit. Now we're highlighting here a case that's 70 degrees. We are not saying to do this, and we're not saying that this is the appropriate way to do angulation on full arch dentistry at all. We're just saying that this customer actually happened to put these implants in at a very steep angle, and we were able to restore it for them, no problem. It was a little tricky just getting it seated from going posteriorly, moving it anteriorly, kind of rolling it onto the implants, but it was capable and it worked out just fine. I want to highlight this video here about the strength of the TRI matrix. It's very significant. And this video is on YouTube for those of you who haven't seen it.
This station where I will put a lot of weights on a ground, which we just have freshly cut. And we have packaged tissue level matrix implant. And we have a 2.8 zirconia screw. And then we can go on 35 Newton centimeter. So then I have this cylinder and I place the implant in the cylinder on this ground. I'm going to add as much weight as least as we tested it in our official test. So that's the first at 1.25 kilo, 7.5. This is the next 2.5 kilos, 25 kilos. Right now, we have 80 kilos, the maximum of any human can buy. So how is your bet? What do you think? How much more? A bit more. 150 kilos on one single ground, 165 kilos. Okay, to finish that, I will add all the kilos on it. 177, that's enough. Woo!
Now,
I think that's amazing.
Take note at the aluminum plate. You'll see some teeth indications on the aluminum plate here momentarily. Right here, you'll see the indentations from the crown on the aluminum plate. So I highlight that because we test everything from start to finish with high capacity of strength. This is the strongest implant on the market. And if we're usually doing the math, it's roughly in US, it's about 375 to 380 pounds of pressure on one single implant on an angle that's not even secured in the bone. The crown didn't break, the screw didn't break, and most importantly, the implant didn't break. We did the same testing on other implant systems that we will not show, but right around, about 25% less to 30% less, the screws break. Some of the implants have broken as well. This is an extremely strong system. I highlight this slide right here is about our 5-year follow-up. We always get a lot of questions about research and data. This is not an implant that was just launched and thrown in the market. This implant was tested for quite some time, and then our 5-year clinical casebook is launched. For those of you that have your cell phone out, I'll leave it on the slide for a moment. You can scan that QR code, jump into our casebook. This will be published in January formally through the University of Zurich, Switzerland by Dr. Ronald Jung. Professor Dr. Ronald Jung is also the president of ITI, for those of you that know who ITI organization is. But Dr. Ronald Jung is a dear friend of ours as well at TRI and really loves our implant system. Some of the other casebook studies we have that are coming out and research, you can scan this QR code here. This will take you right to our portal on our website, and it'll give you access to download any of the PDF research documents you want about anything on our system. So, and if you don't have your camera out currently, just ask one of us. Reach out to TRI if you don't have our cell phone numbers. We obviously will have your emails. We'll probably reach out to you as well. But if you want any of that research, any of that data points, we'll make sure to get that to you as well. Lots of research on that as well. So I wanted to jump into probably arguably one of the biggest value propositions at TRI. For those of you that are working in implant dentistry, full arch dentistry today, TRI has many different value propositions when it comes to implants, from no abutments, 2.8 millimeter bolt screws, digital healing collars being at no charge, anatomically shaped. We're not trying to nickel and dime you by all means. And then most importantly is our TRI lab services that we're partnered with out of California. Our laboratory out of California does an amazing job. We do have other partner labs in the United States that are milling and producing crowns just fine. So this is not an exclusivity to our laboratory. But if you wanted to take advantage of our laboratory, this is what the pricing would look like. For an FP3 case, these are FP3 pricing, but for an FP3 case, monolithic, high translucency, very aesthetic, is $999. And for those of you doing the math in your head, the average price in the market today is around $3,000 for that arch. Some people are paying $2,000, maybe a little less, but on the average, it's about $3,000. For a final zirconia full arch aesthetic or high aesthetic, which is a multi-layer strength zirconia, a little bit more translucency, gives you a little bit more multi-layer of coloring, really pretty. That's $1,500. An arch in the market today is around $3,500 for that on average, $2,500 to $3,500. Ours is $1,500. And those of you who have a laboratory in-house that may be looking at doing a TRI case, and let's just say you want your own technician to characterize it, no problem. We can mill and center any of these arches. So we'll mill it, center it. You guys design it, right? It's your designs. You just send it to us, and we will mill it and center it for $575. I'm telling you right now, most of you are paying between $4,000 and $5,000 per case, from implants to prosthetics. With the TRI system, we're hovering right around $2,000 to $2,500 per case. And this is constantly, and I'm going to show you a couple slides here in a second on the savings. And then look at single tooth crowns for a moment through us. The single tooth crown, basic aesthetic crown for a Bruxer type molar, it's $120. The high aesthetic crown is $160. And for those of you in the market that are using your own laboratories, your lab bills are ranging from $275 to $500 per implant crown. We have drastically undercut the market because the laboratories are still hanging on to these prices that aren't really conducive to many of the patient care and what you're trying to deliver on a daily basis. And then the milled and centered option for you for those of you who have a laboratory technician in-house or want to finish it yourselves for your own characteristic, we could do a milled and centered crown for 49 bucks on zirconia on a single tooth. And then what does that really come with? Well, it comes with our TRI guarantee. The TRI guarantee is a lifetime warranty on implants. That's pretty much standard in industry today. But what's not standard is a 10-year warranty on all the prosthetics. And this is a no questions asked. If you place a crown on our implant and the implant happens to fail 5 years later, we redo the crown for you for free. Does no questions asked. It's a 10-year warranty. We're not going to nickel and dime and fight on why the implant may have failed because there's too much, wasn't built right or whatever. It doesn't matter. We take care of you. I wanted to highlight something here, as I said moments ago, and I'll wrap up. I got about 2 more slides here, and I'll pass it over to Dr. Locke. But I think this is an important, couple important slides. This particular dental office that's up in the Pacific Northwest that I spoke to personally about a month or 2 months ago, they were using Straumann implants, and they were paying roughly $7,178 per case. That's 4 implants, that's screws, that's a milled final arch, that's $600 in multi-unit abutments, and design fees at $400. They were paying over $7,000 an arch per arch. Okay, double arch. Their patient lab, or their total case fee for a double arch was $14,000. When I showed them this number, they had never actually calculated it this way. And for those of you who still have your phone out and you want to scan that QR code right there, that QR code will take you to the implantssavingscalculator.com. It's called implantssavingscalculator.com, and you can run your own numbers to really look at your total case costs. So with the TRI Matrix implants, on 4 implants, we ran the same numbers, about $200 per implant, which was high. Typically for a large place in offices, around $200 an implant. They were paying over $350 an implant for Straumann. We got about $100 in screws, about $2,500 in restoration because they wanted a titanium bar included, and $250 design fee. We saved this office over half per arch, $3,600 all in. The next one here, this office was doing over 100 arches a year in Houston, Texas. We ran the same numbers with Neodent. They're using Neodent. $700 in implants, go through it, $100 in screws, 3D printed arch, $3,000 for a final, $500 in multi-unit abutments. They're paying about $125 a multi, right? So that's $500. And their total case cost was $46.90. So call it $4,600 for round numbers per case, per arch. Sorry. Our pricing was $1,900, more than half saved from on them. And this was doing 100 arches a year. And I told the doctor, if you switch to TRI and we got 100% of your business, we'd save you over $250,000 a year. Let's just say you switched half of your business to us because some doctors love to keep the system in place. That's fine. We work with those. We'd still save this practice over $130,000, $140,000 a year. Anywhere from $120,000, $140,000 a year. What would you do with that extra profit? And really the question lingers to all of you tonight on the Zoom is, how do you want to expand your practice and grow? I'm assuming you're here because of FP1, and Dr. Logan Locke's about to take over and highlight that. But also think about, you guys are a for-profit business. And if you're able to capture an extra $125,000 a year on your bottom line and really, raise your P&L, what would you do with an extra $125,000 a year to capture more patients? Maybe get more education on FP1. So I want to plant that seed with you. And lastly, just for the VIP masterclass, this is the promo that we have to offer for masterclass attendees after you hear this and what Dr. Logan Locke has to say. When you contact us, this will be your offer. It's $44,995. It gets you 20 implants, a free surgical kit, 20 bolt screws, and a couple little ancillary items you need to get started. That's it. That's what you need to get started. This typical promo runs around $6,900 normally, so it's about a $2,000 savings right off the top. Almost a $2,000 savings right off the top because you attended tonight. So with that, I'll take a pause and I'll pass over the presentation to Dr. Logan Locke. And I'll also take one note with you guys. And I should have said this in the beginning. For any questions you may have, because all of you are muted on mute, for any questions you may have, please put those in the chat box. The chat window is open for you guys to type in questions. Dr. Logan and I will go through those questions at the end of the masterclass and make sure all those questions get answered as well. So with that, I appreciate everybody's time. Appreciate everybody listening. I'll pass it over to Dr. Logan Locke now.
Thanks, Derek. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, got you loud and clear.
Great. All right, I'm gonna put my screen up here, and yeah, if you guys have any questions, send them through, and Derek can get them to me. Can you see that okay, Derek?
Yep, you're good to go.
All right. So we want to talk a little bit about FP1 and redefining full arch, specifically FP1 with TRI implants and our experience with them over the last, I don't know how long it's been now, year and a half, maybe something like that, since we switched most of our cases, basically all of them now, over to TRI. Like to start off kind of with this picture. This is a tissue picture. My kids hate looking at through my phone because I have way too many of these. This is not a unicorn. This is something that we get almost on a daily basis between Dr. Roberts and myself. We have hundreds and hundreds of pictures just like this, and the amount of tissue that we are getting is crazy. With TRI implants, they've been an awesome partner. When we've been doing FP1, basically solely FP1 at our practice for about 8 or 9 years now, and patients travel all over the country to come see us to have this procedure done. And I mean, we started cement retained, milling our own bridges, putting them in a denture, letting the implants heal. We experienced issues with that. We moved to screw retained. And for a long time, Dr. Roberts and myself, we just constantly talk about how we needed to create our own implant because multi-units, they're not made for FP1. They're made for FP3. And you've seen with Derek's slides there, even for an FP3, I don't think it's the best thing. But for FP1, they weren't what we needed. We used them and we used them well, and we got really good cases that are doing awesome. And I have some of those on here as well. But when we found TRI and we started using those implants, it kind of checked a lot of the boxes that Dr. Roberts and myself wanted in an implant if we could make it on our own. So we're going to kind of go through what 3-on-6 is, and what we are as a company, what we strive for, and how switching to TRI has really improved our process and the results that we're getting. Basically what we're asking, that case from Ryan Dunlop of his father-in-law, that anterior central, what we're asking is for full arch that we just follow the same concepts. And for a lot of doctors, that can be very overwhelming. It can be the thought of it is scary because we can have recession, we can deal with these things. And basically what we've done with 3-on-6 is create a process that simplifies it. It makes it affordable, and you can push out a 3-on-6 case or an FP1 case in the same time frame for the same amount of money that you would push out an FP3 case. So to me, for some of these patients that have, actually most of patients that do qualify for something like this, I think this is ethically and financially a perfect way to go for these patients. A little bit about myself. I currently manage and run the Smile Systems Institute, where we teach 3-on-6, and we are trying to get more and more providers to offer this solution to their patients. Feel free to take this information. This is my cell phone, my email, and then my manager, Matt Roberts. If you have any questions about the course or about what we do, feel free to text or message him as well. This will be at the end. So if you don't believe me now, hopefully by the end you do, and you can take the information then. So I've been a partner with Dr. Roberts, who many of you may have seen some of his work since about 2016. Since then, I've done over 800 arches of FP1 or FP2, and Dr. Roberts has done well over 1,000 using this system. We have providers across the country who have come through our training and are pushing out as much as we are by way of FP1. And like it says on the bottom right here, I am a TRI implant believer, and I'll show you why as we get into this. This is just our recent course we did. We run these courses. We keep them small because it is a difficult procedure to master. And we have a live patient at the end of that. We have a nice dinner at my house, what we're doing here, because all of our providers, we know them all, we work with them all, and we like to consider it a family of doctors who are all trying to just do the best for their patients. This is everyone that you'll meet that has a part in Smile Systems or in 3-on-6. Between the lab, the marketing, everything, this is our group. This is at a summit we did for all of our providers in Cabo last year. We'll be in Cancun next year with all of our 3-on-6 providers. And this is our office in Salt Lake City, where we get patients from all over the country, all over the world, coming to get a 3-on-6. And what we believe is the most natural dental implant solution for full arch. Real quick to make sure we're all on the same page. For some doctors newer into full arch, this may not be known, so I just like to start off all the time with this because we're gonna talk about FP1 and 3-on-6. FP2, we get a little bit longer teeth, and then our classic all-on-4 FP3 that has fake tissue. With FP3, this is all-on-4s are predictable and they are fast. And there are so many doctors now, so many dentists that are doing these, whether good or bad. I think we've all seen them. And there are some benefits and there are some drawbacks. And one of the things I'll talk about is how easily marketable this is. And I would consider this partially a drawback. If you look at how many people are in your area, this is just me Googling all-on-4, how many people are in your area. If you have tried to market all on 4, you know how difficult it is to gain a patient. If we're typing in FP1, patients have no idea what this is. This is the results from if I type in FP1. So for a lot of patients, does it make sense to market this? Well, it's really hard to market that you do something completely different than anyone else. And that's where 3-on-6 comes in. You are different, and there are people searching for FP1 by way of 3-on-6. These used to be a lot more common. When I first started getting into full arch, we'd see these things on Instagram all the time of doctors, a big bone trophy. And I think they have become less and less common as time has gone on, which I believe is good. This is exactly what we are hoping to avoid, especially that bottom left. That's a patient that's a prime FP1 candidate. So other problems with FP3, if you guys are doing full arch, you've seen this before, they are difficult to clean. Oftentimes the patients that we are getting for full arch had a hard time cleaning their teeth initially. And then you are putting that junction between their tissue and the prosthetic high above where they can see it. And in a lot of cases, that is a huge issue. If they're smiling and they can't see it, they're not worried about cleaning it. And then you take it off, you get something like this picture here. This is a fairly common thing. It is a difficult thing to clean for a lot of people. The other issue that we see frequently is fractured FP3s. This is an expensive fix, and patients do not love that. They've just paid you a large amount of money, and they don't want to have to pay you again for a prosthetic. And so if this happens early, you're floating the cost of that prosthetic. If it happens later on, you're pushing it on the patient, and rightfully so, but they're not going to be happy with this. This is a map of Starbucks, but it feels like when you're marketing FP3, this is how many providers you're seeing across the country nowadays. It is extremely saturated, and as dentists, we need a way to differentiate ourselves amongst the many. And we'll show you what our map of FP1 or 3-on-6 providers is. So the elephant in the room is, or what most people think is, FP1 is for the unicorn. It is the patient that qualifies for it with just insane bone levels that they're financially, they've got so much that they can pay the expensive lab fees. We want to take years to complete this. It's overly technique sensitive. It requires multiple surgeries. We have this fear of visible bone loss. We feel that few patients will even qualify for this. So does it even make sense to learn this? There's no real system or protocol to follow. Most of the time, when I go out to full arch conventions, most of the doctors that I talk to that are doing FP1 are prosthodontists, and they're good at it. They've taken a long time to develop the skills to do it. They have their labs that they trust to be able to do it, but they can dictate to their lab what they need done. And this is something that maybe the general pool of dentists just doesn't feel comfortable being able to dictate. And then the surgery takes too long. The changes since the 90s, when FP3 became kind of the standard of care in fixed full arch, since then we have lower prices for implants for bone grafting. We have newer technology in photogrammetry, intraoral scanners. We've got new implants like TRI. We've got stronger restorative materials, better looking zirconia. We've got all these new techniques from amazing dentists across the country that have taught us how to build and keep bone. And we spend so long trying to get our patients to keep their bone. And we believe that when we go to full arch, we shouldn't be taking that away. Few of the changes that have happened: 3D printers, Derek really showed with how easy it is to provide an implant within 30 minutes, a crown, an implant and a crown. It's insane where technology is going. It's remarkable. It's amazing to be a part of. And, it's just going to keep getting better and better for us in FP1. You'll see here soon, 3-on-6 is a guided surgery. We do everything digital, and that allows us to get the results that we're getting and to keep the system really easily manageable by every doctor that we train. And then just materials, biologics, everything's gotten better. And then comes 3-on-6. So in 2016, Dr. Roberts did the first one in 2014. And it was interesting when we were looking at Ryan Dunlop's case that he was doing that on his father-in-law. And I believe the way that we treat our full arch patients should be, how would we do this on our family member? That was a beautiful case. And that's exactly the process that I would follow on a family member. And where 3-on-6 was kind of born was on a family member, because Dr. Roberts, he didn't want patient, it was his cousin, needed to have all his teeth removed. Randy put him in a denture. He didn't like the denture. The thought of removing his bone didn't feel right, and he couldn't afford the expensive lab fees. So Dr. Roberts placed 6 implants and scanned and milled those stock abutments, milled the bridges on our CEREC Blue Cam, and his cousin had those bridges for years before we kind of traded them out for something that looked a little bit nicer. So on the left, we have the obstacles for FP1. On the right, we have what we believe is what 3-on-6 provides. So the first one, an expensive lab fee. Our lab fee, we are very straightforward about it. It is under $5,000 per arch, all in. That means for your surgical guide, your design, your same-day conversion, your printed temps, your temps all the way through to your finals. Your finals are zirconia delivered, everything, night guard, you're $5,000 in, and this is something that you can upsell your patients pretty easily if you know how to. That includes implants as well.
Yeah, that includes the implants as well, which is amazing deal.
Yeah, so that's for 6 implants, 6 if you're using, and we hope you do use TRI. That's for 6 implants, 6 bolts, all of that in. So the lab fee is manageable, and you know exactly what it's going to be. It's not going to cost you more, even if your patient wants a couple more sets of temporaries. This is predictable. We do thousands of these per year. Dr. Ali will show you picture after picture of tissue that we are developing. This is if you follow the process correctly and you're using a lab that knows what they're doing, like ours, then this can and is very predictable. Yes, this requires exact implant placement. This is a guided surgery. One of the things that, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, one of the things with TRI, we have to, in order to get more doctors to do FP1, we had to standardize the system, and we had to make it very kind of technique insensitive. The way to do that was with guided surgery. Well, one of the hard parts with that is placing MUAs is probably when I'm training doctors, and I've trained a lot at this point, I would say one of the hardest things for doctors to learn and get good at, especially with FP1 cases, is timing and placing MUAs. It takes a long time during surgery, especially when you're placing the implants like we do, and I'll show you those pictures. The switch to TRI has completely eliminated that one step that caused screws and embrasures, because now we can, even if that implant's off slightly through the guide, which it could be, that can be corrected within the angled screw channel. And so this switch has done a lot of things, And I don't think I have that. That was something I was thinking of when Derek was talking. So I wanted to make sure that was that I remembered to talk about that. This is generally 99% of the time, this is one surgery. This is not overly technique sensitive. It's simplified by our system. We train you on how exactly to manage tissue, how to create Pontic sites. And then a lot of that is incorporated into the prosthetic, which our lab knows how to design for you. Fear of visible bone loss. This is, and especially with TRI as of late, this is less and less of an issue, but heavily dependent on patient compliance. The thing that I think we need to remember is this is another lifespan of teeth, of dentition for the patient. We worry about a little bit of tissue loss, but in reality, this gives the patient a whole nother life. If we go straight to FP3, they have great bone, we chop it off and get them in an FP3, and they lose bone and that fails, then we are to remote anchorage. And if that doesn't work for them, they are SOL. And there's really difficult and expensive procedures, and there are amazing surgeons out there that can do this remote anchorage. But I would prefer to keep them out of that as long as possible. And preserving and saving their bone, even at the risk of some slight tissue recession, is worthy. But you'll see we have some follow-up 3-5 year follow-ups that are beautiful. And this is what most of our patients look like. We'll show you those. The majority of our consultations qualify at least for FP2. And I will guarantee you that if you show them the difference and you give them the option of having a little bit longer teeth or fake gum tissue and flat planed, they will choose the FP2. And I guarantee that because we offer FP3 in our office. We do all on X's. After we sell them on either one, almost no one chooses an all on X unless it's cost, because we charge less for it. They fracture frequently. This is, if you know how to segment these prosthetics and you know why you're segmenting them, these zirconia bridges do not break. In the thousands of bridges that I have placed, I have had 2 fracture. They just don't break when they're as small as they should be. We are finishing in 3 to 4 months, same schedule that I have for my All-on-X patients. With All-on-X, sometimes you can skip a second set of temporaries. Generally with our 3-on-6, we always do a second set of temporaries, so maybe that's 1 extra appointment, but our process is the exact same for both of them. And we have time-tested protocols for tissue preservation. We follow zero bone loss concepts. We are doing this to get the patient in a long-lasting prosthetic. And we have millions invested in this protocol and in this system to simplify FP1. So why FP1? We are seeing younger and younger patients with great bone, but in need of full mouth implants. Removing bone can be unnecessary, and it can be, over the lifetime of a patient, extremely harmful, in my opinion. 95% of my patients qualify for FP1 or FP2, which means I'm not removing any bone at all. These are 3 of them. The bottom left is a patient we did for our live training for, we try and we do the surgeries on these patients, and then 3 months later, the next group of trainees gets to finish the prosthetics on them. And so she was one of our patients that went through that training process, and she got a great result, as you can see here. So these are cases with where, I talk to a lot of people that think, oh, when they're showing gum, this is even more reason to take away and hide that prosthetic. And it's just not true. You just need to know how to manage the tissue. These are the cases that you absolutely should be doing and should be able to do an FP1. As a full arch provider, you should be able to save their bone. Our mission is exactly that. It's to save the bone. Full arch isn't a one size fits all. I will give you, FP3s are fast. You can do surgeries quickly, but is it the best for your patient every time? I believe it is not. Conserving bone is the best for your patients. It's going to prevent future bone loss, and it should be in the tool belt of every full arch clinician. And I mean, we have so much material of patients selecting, and this is how we sell these cases. We give them a price for an FP3. We show them pictures of them. We show them models, and then you show them these pictures that I'm showing here on the right of a 3-on-6. Which would you choose? If this were your family member, which would you choose? And I think absolutely everyone would choose the one on the right. It's thinner, it's easier to speak with, it's easier to clean. There's nothing to hide. One thing that we've noticed over time is our patients, between our all-on-X patients and our FP1 patients, our 3-on-6 patients, they feel like their teeth are natural. I hear it all the time. I can feel where I'm biting. When they have an FP3, they cannot. Their proprioception is better when you split these bridges up. It's less traumatic for patients. These are based on our own patients. Like I said, we do all-on-X cases as well. If they have a lot of bone loss, or if just financially they choose that's what they want to do, then we will do it. With our all-on-X cases, we generally have more pain and swelling. I'm sure if you guys are doing these cases, you've experienced this on the right. We almost never have bruising and swelling like this for our FP1 cases. They are extremely atraumatic. And then we hear a lot, why do we split the bridges? Why is it 3-on-6? We're preventing fracture, and we're stimulating the bone more. Just common engineering. We know why we have splits in concrete. It allows it to move. It allows it to prevent cracking, which is exactly what's going on here. And this is an example of our bridges that come from our lab. So as far as segmentation goes, and this is where I will tell you, having done many of these, you need to segment your FP1 cases. Your chip rate over time for a single unit implant, 1.3%. As we move up to bridges, a 3 to 5 unit FPD, 6.7%, and then our full arch jumps up to 38%. So by segmenting these, we are decreasing our fracture rate by an astounding amount. The other another benefit of segmentation, these are they're easier to access, they're easier to fix, and they're easier to switch out. One of the things that I hear often is, okay, what if one of my implants fails? Well, these can be switched out for very, very cheap. They can be moved to other locations, and instead of taking off the full arch, you can take off one segment of this bridge. You can place a new implant, put the segment back on. You could use our lab, and you could switch it to a 2-on-5. You can, if you decided at that point that the last thing for the patient, they had to go to a single unit upper, fine. There are so many options when you do an arch like this. It gives you the ability to keep your patient in an FP1 for a long amount of time by just grafting and moving. So again, this is going to keep your patient with their bone much, much longer. The replacement of a 4-unit FPD through our lab is $99. If they were to have a fracture, which I will confidently tell you that you likely won't experience, but it's cheap. Versus a full arch replacement, unless you're going through TRI's lab, which is still expensive. It's an expensive thing to replace for your patient if it fractures. So a patient is much more willing to pay this fee or your fee on top of this than they are to pay $3,000 to $5,000 for a new fixed prosthetic. We talk a lot about progressive loading, and this is something that we've experienced often. Wolff's Law, these implants need to be loaded. All of us have seen an implant that has sat with a healing abutment on it for years. You almost always have bone loss. They need to receive load in order to stimulate the bone and increase remodeling. Progressive loading is after osseointegration of the implant. So we keep our initial temporaries are a single piece. We believe in cross-arch stability for the initial healing of the implants. After those implants are healed, we strongly believe that those implants need to receive the proper load. It increases long-term bone-to-implant contact. We're seeing increased density surrounding the implants, reduced crestal bone loss by 3 times. Cross-arch stability is designed to limit the load of implants early on in healing. But when you can create smaller bridges using 6 implants, it is not necessary for the long-term health of the implants. In fact, I would argue the exact opposite. Same thing, we're not leaving a patient in a cast forever. This came from Implant Ninja. Axial forces all on 4 versus all on 6. What we see in the middle is those 2 extra implants that we added in there are not necessarily reducing the axial forces on our front 2 implants and our posterior 2 implants. So doing it all on 6 is great. It gives us options later on, which I think a lot of us fear, having to go through another surgery. If you have 1 implant fail, you can go all on 5. That's great. But it is not stimulating those middle 2 implants, and you are not getting the support from them that I think a lot of us think we are. That's why we segment. At 3 to 4 months, we are taking that full arch and we are putting it into 3 separate pieces if possible, and starting to stimulate the bone around those implants, giving them the load that they need. And if your occlusion is balanced and you're doing it correctly, it is not a traumatic load on those implants. It is a proper load. Just more literature regarding progressive loading in dentistry. And just very anecdotal, getting data on this bone to implant contact, but you stimulate these with these bridges and we are seeing stronger and stronger bone, higher levels of bone to implant contact over time. When we shorten these bridges and we segment, we are also able to make our connectors much smaller. Our restorative space is much lower, and that allows us to keep these bridges strong long-term, keep you from having to replace them often. Just an example of what these look like, difference in size. This is something we have in our offices, and this sells the case every single time. Weight. A lot of you guys have felt a full arch zirconia piece. It is heavy oftentimes. And for older women, for people, this can be a problem. Our 3-on-6 bridges on average were about half of the weight of our all-on-X cases. When we reduce alveoplasty, we are keeping the surface area that the prosthetic touches to a much smaller area. So our plaque retention goes down. There are 2 things that are happening here. We are now taking that junction between the prosthetic and the tissue, and instead of hiding it up where they can't see it, we are putting them right where if they smile big, they're going to be able to see plaque develop. And so this is a huge plus for hygiene, which keeps our implants good for longer. The second we start to alveoplasty, we are getting a wider surface for that prosthetic to attach to. And that increases our plaque retention. We are also hiding it up higher, which increases plaque retention. We're going to have more long-term complications the more plaque and garbage we have under those. You've all removed one. They are nasty when we remove them. These are average measurements that we took on our own, and we do FP3s quite small because we're so accustomed to doing our FP1s. We keep our FP3s fair on the smaller side, but we're still experiencing much, much smaller prosthetics for our patients by height. You can see our anterior height We have a 28% decrease going to a 3-on-6, posterior height 47%, and our intaglio width, anterior, posterior, much, much smaller with an FP1. We don't remove for cleanings, which some of us do for our FP3s. I know that kind of changes from time to time, but these are generally very easy for the patient to see and clean by themselves with the smaller intaglio surface area. So no need to remove and clean. These are cleaned with just our regular cleanings every 6 months. No screws that need to be replaced. We keep them on. They stay tight, especially with our TRI screws, which I will get into. Then our sound. One of the issues that we had, or we heard a lot, was the clacking. When you have that big full arch and you tap that together, you get a very loud noise. Some patients complain of this, and we do not get that with our smaller bridges. We are breaking up the tuning fork. So FP1 is possible through, especially following the 3-on-6 protocol. These are cases now that I will show you that we have since we switched to TRI. These are super, super common, and I'll show you some of the benefits that we have found with TRI implants. So these are some of the prosthetic problems. I'll go through prosthetic and surgical problems that we experience as we've been building this FP1 protocol. With our cement retained cases, which we stopped doing about, I want to say 5 years ago, it was extremely difficult to temporize. It was very difficult to get a clean prosthetic on. It was very difficult to get from your initial temporaries to your finals. The appointments were long, they were hard, and they were uncomfortable for the patient. Abutments can still break or loosen, and we had, you can get failures left over from cement. Once we switched to screw retained, we got rid of some of those issues, but we had some of our own switching to screw retained, and most of them dealt with MUAs. So it became much easier, especially with photogrammetry, but we have issues with prosthetic screw loosening. We know our prosthetic is not generally attached to 4 implants. It's attached to 2. We need a prosthetic screw that can hold those. We heard time and time again, these screws were not approved. They were not designed to go straight to connection, direct to connection. They were designed for the titanium housing. And we are going direct to connection for everything, especially with TRI. So the screws breaking and loosening over time is our largest. It's not tissue recession. Our largest complication is prosthetic screw loosening. Loose screws can cause broken bridges, failed implants. We don't like them. We've tried every screw. We've been through Rosen. We've been through all of the different prosthetic screws, trying to get something and seeing what will work the best. There's some good ones out there, but I think ultimately they will end up loosening over time. Surgical problems. Again, with cement retained, it was extremely difficult to temporize. Your bone adjusting to get those abutments on was minimal. You didn't have to place the implants so deep. But it was extremely hard to remove and clean excess cement. So yes, these were difficult cases. When we switched to MUAs, the MUAs are very difficult to seat in an FP1 case. This isn't a flat plane. It's much easier to do it on an FP3 case. We are sinking these implants fairly deep. You saw in Ryan Dunlop's case where he placed that TRI implant about to the bone level. That's what we're doing for every single one of our implants. So if we're doing that with an MUA, I'll show you what that leads to. So during these surgeries, we would always have to flap, and we generally would have to remove or contour the bone in order to get these MUAs down. It's just a time-consuming thing to do. When I would do these trainings, often our training surgeries for again, the thing that people tend to struggle the most with FP1 was placing the MUAs, getting them seated properly in the right orientation with the right timing. And so our surgeries during training would go fairly long. I would have to step in and generally do this part for the trainees, or at least some of it, to speed up the process. Since we switched to TRI, we have decreased our training surgical times by about 3 hours. So that's a major benefit for me, who has to be in there during those surgeries. So what has been solved by TRI? This is something that we dealt with. Initially, we ran Neodent CM implants, and we ran into this often, broken or loose abutments. I think that's been fixed with the GM, but we have some PTSD from using those initial implants. So broken or loose abutments is a complication where every time we have to remove one of those suckers, we're breaking that tissue attachment. I don't like to do it. We're risking some tissue recession every time we have to dig in there. Broken or loose prosthetic screws. This, again, I would say is our largest complication with FP1. Since we have switched to TRI, anecdotally, this has been not the longest amount of data, but I have yet to have a patient return with a loose final using TRI. The parts are expensive. All of us, we have to make a living, and the more and more parts we have to buy in inventory, it becomes overwhelming. Once these break, to replace them, it's expensive. Patients don't like to have to pay for these things. Even the little screws that are $12 a piece, they don't want to pay for them. And so it adds up quickly, especially when you're delivering something that's very expensive for a patient. They expect it to they kind of have this expectation to not have to keep paying for things, although that's false, and we know it's not often not our fault. It's something that we deal with as full arch providers. So since we have switched over and started using these, we experience a lot less screw loosening. I have not had a screw break, thankfully, but we are asking these suckers to do as much as they can. And we have pushed TRI, we've pushed Derek and Dr. Iman, and we've made them do things for us that because this is FP1 is a different beast, and this implant has held perfectly. That torque value of 35 Newton centimeters for the final is holding, and we're seeing a much greater torque value over time as our patients come back for follow-up visits. So that prosthetic screw recommended torque value of 20 Newton centimeters, and with how small it is, it just loosens quicker. From TRI, this is something that we will continue testing as we go through our FP1 cases and as they age. But initially, we're getting kind of these same results, that our prosthetics are staying tighter much longer. Every implant company started moving to this deep conical connection. We used BioHorizons for years. We've used Neodent. When we almost moved to a few other implant companies, but it was all basically the same implant with a deep conical connection. It's great. We're taking that area that causes bone loss, and we're hiding it away, and that is a good thing. But with TRI, it just makes more sense to just, instead of hiding away that connection, we just remove it altogether. And this was, I'd say, if you ask Dr. Iman, which many of you, if you've worked with TRI, you've talked to him, I was a hard sell on this. It is different, but it absolutely works. So as far as what TRI has helped us with surgically, it has allowed us to do much less invasive surgeries. This is a case of that needed full arch, everything decayed out, but tissue levels are great, bone levels are great. How do we do this surgery and keep it as minimally invasive as possible? This is a case where I didn't flap anything but that posterior left where they're already missing teeth. So no flaps here. That tissue is going to grow in really nicely. Patient wanted a little bit longer teeth than what they had initially, so we accommodated that. Did flap the lower a little bit more. As you can see, we've got some stitches down there, but this is a very, very conservative surgery for these patients comparatively. The reason why is because of this. If we look at the heights of MUAs, I think, we're using BioHorizons deep conical implants for, let's say, a 30-degree MUA. If I needed that in the anterior at a number 7 or 10, that's I think a 2.5 maybe millimeter, which is the measurement on the left side. So if I have a 2.5 millimeter tissue height, collar height, that puts that right side, the tall side, about a millimeter to a millimeter and a half taller than that. I need that level of that MUA to be at the height of my buccal plate. In order to develop tissue properly, that has to be deep. That means I'm placing that implant up to 3 to 4 millimeters deep, which is fine. We preserve, we keep the bone. Those implants were great, but that's an extremely hard place to put an MUA in. You end up having to really contour bone in order to get the MUA to seat that deep. So these surgeries, almost always, you have to flap them open. You have to take a bird of bone, which I prefer not to do. And so that was, it did require some, not bone reduction as much as bone contouring, which can affect the outcome, especially if you don't know how to do it conservatively. This is a case, I had a patient travel to me from Baltimore, a young man that was set to go to Vegas to get an FP3 and search for alternatives, found 3-on-6, came to us to get his work done. And he's in his low 30s, and this is a case I did on him. You can see the placement of the, this one I did flap just a little bit, basically because he had a gummy smile and we were trying to reduce that a bit. But no bone removal. We reduced his gummy smile without touching his bone with a burr. You can see the height at which I placed the TRI implants. This is pretty dang common for where we're putting them. And this allows us to develop tissue really well long-term. And we teach how you're going to manage that tissue. Our prosthetics are designed to help you manage that tissue and to develop really, really nice looking results. This is where the money comes with FP1. You have to shape the tissue. And so growing tissue under the prosthetic, knowing how to manage a flap and where to place that tissue. You can see that 1 day post-op on this case, very conservative. This was actually done mostly not with sutures. This is Dr. Roberts' case, done mostly with tissue glue to the prosthetic. You can be extremely, extremely conservative with this. Finals at 3 months. So this is not taking you any longer than your FP3 case to develop this kind of tissue. I did a case where I placed one implant at number 6 that needed an MUA. The rest of them I did with TRI. And what I found very interesting was how much deeper the tissue was with these TRI implants, acknowledging, that pink collar on these implants is 1.8, I believe, millimeters thick. So under that, what do I have on the lingual there? 4 millimeters of tissue. Under that, I've got another 1.8 millimeters of solid kg. This is going to, we know more and more lately that the amount of tissue is what is predicting the longevity of these implants. And this is what's going to keep you from having recession long-term. This is another case that I did using TRI. You can see the pontic site development. You can see how much tissue we are able to get above the height of that tissue collar, and just something that's extremely, extremely stable over time. More cases, more tissue depth. One of the things that I don't think they talk about often, that their P45 implants, that collar, I believe is the exact same as what an MUA diameter is. They have a P37 if you haven't used it yet, which is smaller. And we actually love those for lower anteriors where we're trying to develop this kind of tissue. So, we're using a smaller platform diameter on those lower anterior areas, and it's helping keep and preserve that tissue long term. And again, we just have countless pictures of how good of tissue development we are getting using our protocol and using TRI implants. And you can see the bolt sticking out of there. We love these big screws. They are holding tight and they are very strong. And then just some follow-up pictures. This is a 2-year post-op of one of Dr. Roberts' cases. You can see how well the tissue matures over time. A 5-year post-op, this is a cement retained case. So, it can be done using lots of different ways. It's just, this is a lot harder. And then this is one I took last week. I have a patient that came in for the 3-week post-op. Derek mentioned having some of these, so I just quickly took some of the patients that I had in the chair. So you can see how developed, how mature the tissue is. This is not something that is going to recede much over time. And let's talk about that. Okay, if I do get a little bit of recession in an area, it's very easy now to remove that. It's cost effective to deliver a new bridge in 10 years that fills those gaps. It's just not an issue. And how much more of a benefit is this for the patient? If in 50 years they need to get an FP3, I can take these implants out and I can deliver an FP3 and ideally help them avoid remote anchorage over time. So this is kind of how the system works. We continue to kind of push the boundaries of what we are able to do. We get ideas from our own providers who want something specific for their FP1 cases. And so we R&D with Dr. Roberts, we test them out. That's what happened with TRI. He tested them out. I didn't want to. I found that he was getting better results than I was getting. So that pisses me off. And I decided to switch so I can get better results. And then I teach them. And this is how we maintain quality products long term. Once we have something that we think is worthwhile, then we present it to all of our providers. That happens at the annual summit. That's when we presented TRI last year. We ensure that all of our docs that come through are using our lab so we can ensure quality over time. We want to make sure that all of our providers across the country are delivering a 3-on-6, which follows our process and uses our lab. So that is how we maintain the quality of the product there. This is just what we had last year at our summit. This coming year, we've got a good one coming. We've got some amazing guest speakers that are going to talk to us about specific things that help with FP1 as well. This is a graph of what we are seeing as far as patients searching for 3-on-6. It is increasing very quickly. We need more providers to offer this product to their patients. This is our current list of providers across the country. They're amazing and they're doing beautiful, beautiful work. But in an area of full arch where it is oversaturated already, this is where I think some of the benefit comes in. Google search FP1, see what comes up. Google search 3-on-6. This is a marketable FP1 that's going to bring patients to your door. They are actively looking for alternatives to FP3. They do not know what FP1 is. They don't know what it's called. If you want to be able to market yourself as something different, be a 3-on-6 provider. In 2024, we placed over 1,000 arches between our providers. We're growing extremely fast, and we just need more awesome clinicians. This is a systematic approach to providing consistent FP1 to your patients. It's making it predictable, faster, more economical. We want you to make money. We want to bring patients to you as a provider of 3-on-6. And we are constantly improving our process and testing and implementing new technology. Some of our doctors, Dr. Shore in Chicago, has done an amazing job. He puts out beautiful work, and he increased his production exponentially after he came through our course. Dr. Emmett in Las Vegas was doing just wisdom teeth, and he only does 3-on-6 at his office. He doesn't do anything else. And he is basically, after our training, switched completely to doing this, and he's doing beautiful work. Our training is it's a 4-day course. You come to Salt Lake, where you work with and on our patients. We have a live surgery at the end of it. We show every step of the way with live patients and do model work, didactic stuff. We get you through everything. We also go through the business end of things. This is our live patient training, where doctors get to do 1 arch of 3-on-6 with us supervising. I've got to fill this out with more 2026 dates, but we'll have much more of them. We have a few spots still. I believe we had a couple that needed to postpone from our December course. So if anyone wants to come out soon, we can accommodate. Marketing. We do help you with marketing. We do not require that you use us for marketing, but we are pretty dang good at it. We've done it for a long time, and we can help in that regard as well. Basically, we wanted this to give you the ability after you come to the course to market yourself, to do the cases, to have support, and have the lab work, everything done, so you don't have to worry about it. I help you plan the cases to make sure you understand the system for your first 4 arches. After that, generally doctors are good to go and they start running. And again, our price for the full arch kit, including guides, everything through night guard, is less than $5,000. We offer support afterwards. We have on-site support available. I've traveled to offices to help them implement this into their own offices after the course. We have a support group of all of our FP1 providers that are posting cases on a daily basis, presenting questions, alternative ideas, everything. So it is an amazing group to be a part of, and I'm humbled to be in there with some amazing clinicians. 3-on-6 is training, lab, marketing, support. It gets you doing FP1 course or FP1 cases quickly, and it gets you doing them consistently. Again, this is my information. Feel free to text me any questions that you may have, or if you want more information on our course, text or email Matt, and he will get back to you quickly. But more than happy to talk about this with anyone. It's something I'm very passionate about, and that we are extremely proud of. Thanks. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Doc.
What, if any, questions we have?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Locke. We do have a few questions. So for those of you, we do have a few already teed up, but for those of you that are just wrapping up and listening, there's a Q&A button within the system that you're on Zoom, and you could throw your question in there. We're going to get to those questions right now. But a few highlights I wanted to just double down on, and I think it's really important from my side of it, the business side. And you talked about it very heavily, Doctor, is around FP3 to FP1. There's so many doctors today that are providing FP3 cases, and you showed that beautiful graph to Starbucks and where all the Starbucks locations is, but essentially that is FP3, right? When a patient's Googling all on 4, all on X, full arch dentistry, no more dentures, that is the pool that you're trying to compete in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very messy. And when you look at some of these places that are advertising a $10,000 arch to the patient, I'll go nameless on these centers.
Yeah,
There's some actually very good doctors in those clinics and I always ask them, why are you doing this? And they say, oh, it's to get more patients. But do you think about the quality of patient that you're actually attracting at $10,000 as well?
yeah.
And I'll tell you more times than not, those are the first patients ready to sue you when a screw breaks, right? And they're lawyering up quickly instead of just working with them to fix problems. So you have to think about the quality of patients that you're attracting at that $10,000 mark. And I have talked to these doctors and these customers of mine about 3-on-6, and I talked to them about FP1 cases, and they've heard of it. They hear the buzzwords, and the things that Dr. Logan Locke just showed you demands a higher price point, demands better.
Absolutely.
It's way better dentistry, way better patient outcomes, and it demands a better price point, and more importantly, higher profit margins, and the patient experience goes through the roof. So I wanted to kind of tee that up for this question, Dr. Locke, if you can answer this. One of the questions that came in says for, where to go here? What is a typical FP1 case charge for it? Maybe a 3-on-6 or FP1 do you see
Yeah.
across the country?
Yeah, so we do not stipulate what our providers charge. We have a minimum advertised price. We do not want a race to the bottom for these cases because they are more difficult. We want these to be profitable for our doctors. So we do not allow anyone to advertise 3-on-6 below 20,000 an arch. But we have doctors in areas that are doing these for $35,000 an arch. We have in Utah where we are fairly saturated, we're 25 to 30,000 an arch. So it's once you know how to sell these cases, it is an easy upsell. It is a longer surgery. It'll take you longer than your FP3 cases. It is slightly more difficult. But once you get used to doing guided things, it's really not. But you will, this is when you show a patient what the difference is, 99% of the time, they will upsell themselves. They will pay the extra 10,000 an arch if that's what it is, so that they don't have bone removal, so they don't have to have fake gum tissue. That's one thing that I don't think people understand. One of the things I hear the most is, I just don't want fake gum tissue. It is so common. And so we have patients that come from all over the world because they just want to avoid that. Yeah, it's exactly that. And I didn't think people cared that much about it. We can make that fake gum tissue look pretty dang good, but they just don't want it. And so, yeah, you say even if you're charging 15K an arch, which is low for an all-on-4, 25 for an FP1, and the majority of your patients will pay it if you know how to sell it properly.
And I think by you showed highlighting those pictures of those FP3s with the screw access holes that are super thick and the lingual, and just the weight. I mean, I'm holding this FP3 arch in my hand right now. And for those doctors and everybody on the call that's done this thing's heavy.
Yeah.
You got a strong jaw to hold two of these things up.
It is.
So
It's very heavy. And we have a model that you can purchase through our lab that's half 3-on-6 and half FP3. And it's, you can unscrew the parts and you give it to the patient and you say, okay, which one do you want? And it's the 3-on-6 bridge is tiny and the FP3 is an FP3. And it's easy every single time.
yeah, one of the things that stood out to me when I first met you guys last year was, and I asked Dr. Roberts this question directly, how many FP3 cases are you doing? I'm sure they're still available. And he goes, very little, very little. He's like, unless it's severely atrophic maxilla that needs zygomas or crazy, you called it remote anchorage cases. Sure. But the way you can produce and put the implants and then reproduce tissue, the way it models around these provisionals, it's incredible. And I hope everybody got to see that tonight.
Yeah.
So the next question teed up here, and you did answer it. I saw it, and he said, sorry, I should have waited one more minute, but this is a good thing just to double down on. It's a great question. For immediate temporization, especially with TRI, would it make more sense to split the provisional up over the implants or keep it in one full arch? And I think you kind of highlighted about keeping it all together in the provisionals and why. Can you touch on that once more?
Yeah. So cross arch stability is very important for the initial healing of the implants. We don't want traumatic force on the implants during that initial healing process. It's after that we want to start stimulating the bone around the implants, give the load, start to progressively load the implants. That's when we split them. And we teach a pretty, generally 90% of the time we're doing a straight 3-on-6. I would say some of the time, depending on where the bone is, maybe I split it into two pieces. With mandibular flexion, full arch lower even is much higher risk to fracture. So even splitting it into two pieces is a lot of times adequate. But we're seeing better bone stability over time if you can split it into 2-unit bridges, into a 3 to 5 unit bridge on 2 implants, basically.
Gotcha. Perfect. Next question came in. I think I understand it, but he's asking if you have TRI implants and a mix of other implants, can you still restore those? So if maybe a patient had
Yeah.
multi-unit base and TRI, have you
Yeah,
had
and
any experience with that?
that's one of the beauties of FP1 is I'm not removing if they've got good, healthy, stable implants. These patients have been with me for years, and I've placed, years ago, I've placed Neodent or BioHorizons or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. One of the cases I showed on there was an MUA at number 6. Everything else was TRI. That was a new implant, but we've done many of these cases where we mix MUAs with TRI, and it works just fine.
Yeah, with photogrammetry, for those of you that actually have Micron Mapper or iCam, we have Micron Mapper adapters that go with it. We also have iCam dominoes that go directly iCam dominoes, but those flags go directly to our
Yeah.
implant TRI. And if you go to the 3-on-6 course and actually receive the training, one of the unique things about their courses, they have all the technology. They have all of them. So if you use, iCam in your office or Micron Mapper or Sprint Ray or other this technology pieces that you need, they have it all there. So you can actually train with the equipment you'll be using in your own office. It's not like you're going to be kind of adapting to something else.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have everything.
That's true.
We've tried it all out. We like to have an idea of what's going to work best for people so we can recommend what's going to make it easiest on them. But yeah, we
Yeah.
have doctors that are using all sorts of different scanners, all sorts of different photogrammetry. Some are using ScanBridge, some are we teach enough that you can either invest in something like photogrammetry or you can get back to your office and just start working with ScanBridge.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll teach it both ways.
Next one's not a question, but it's a great comment from our good friend Dr. Jason Emmett in Las Vegas, right here in my backyard where I live. I know Dr. Emmett very well, great guy. And Dr. Locke mentioned Dr. Emmett was on the slide there. He converted his entire practice to 3-on-6 providers only. So he just said, well done, guys. 3-on-6 changed my practice. It's changed my life. Honored to be a part of the 3-on-6 family over the last 2 years. We did 6 arches this week, changing lives every day, keeping the gums in the bone. So thank you, Dr. Emmett. I appreciate that comment.
Dr. Emmett's the man.
The next question was about photogrammetry, and I kind of answered this, but specifically to Tupel. We do have, they're called 6 millimeter adapters for Tupel. Those Tupel flags that are multi-unit level, the adapter goes in the TRI implant. You put on the Tupel flags. It works really seamless. We have a really good friend of ours that's a 3-on-6 provider in New Jersey, Dr. Mary Oliveri. Dr. Mary uses Tupel every day. She does tons of cases with Tupel on TRI implants. So we do have quite a few different doctors that have migrated towards Tupel, and it seems to work pretty dang well. Do you need a special template to mill the connection, like a T cutter? I'll answer that real quick. Absolutely. Our milling centers, Dr. Locke's lab, they actually have a beautiful lab in Utah. It's called the Smile Systems Laboratory. They have really good milling machines, and we use a T cutter to use the angulated screw channels. Absolutely. The connection itself not necessarily needs the T cutter. It's for the angulated screw channels that you use T cutters for. But yes, that's what we use. And I'll just highlight for those of you that have mills in practice or use a different laboratory, we do onboarding with mills. So we actually provide the milling strategies for Hyperdent, Millbox, and some others to actually so that you can mill TRI implants in-house on single teeth, things like that, flawlessly. We went through this with the Utah Smile Systems with their laboratory. We onboarded the labs about a year ago. We calibrate them, and they actually just bought a new milling machine that we're onboarding currently with Versa. It's a great milling machine. They bought one of the top-end Versa mills out there. So yes, very capable, fully open to most milling machines on the market. When I say most, some of the oddball ones from China, a couple newer ones coming out of Israel, I believe, or Turkey. Those ones we haven't fully because they have proprietary milling strategies. but we're still trying to open. But 90% of the milling machines on the market we're open to. This one's for you, Dr. Locke. Do you provide a denture if you do not achieve torque on the implants?
Um, no, we don't ever have that issue. We teach how to make sure that you're getting torque on the implants, and between 6 implants, I mean, we need 120 newtons of 20 newtons of torque across. Generally, it's 4 implants, so you're trying to shoot for 30 each. We teach ways to get that torque basically every time. So I haven't had a case that I put in denture in 6 or 7 years. So we can provide a denture, but I would say none of our providers currently are asking for them.
Perfect. All right, next question. Is there a monthly or annually membership subscription for 3-on-6 to become involved in Smile Systems, becoming an official provider, maintain 3-on-6 providership annually? I see provider that were labeled silver, gold, platinum in the provider map. What does that mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, we decided long ago that we didn't want to charge an annual fee. You pay to come out to the training. You pay one initial licensing fee of $5,000. That gives you access to all of our marketing material, everything, so that you can start getting cases. And the way that basically we survive is you using our lab for the cases. So the only time you pay us is when you do arches, which incentivizes us. We want you to do these cases. So we focus heavily on our online presence, making sure 3-on-6 is a name that is recognizable, so that when someone searches for an alternative to all-on-4, they see 3-on-6, they go to the map, they see that you're the closest person to them, and they go to you. So that is our goal. And no, we don't charge anything beyond that. The levels on the map are basically the doctors that are doing the most cases with us. So the more cases you do with us, the more FP1 you're doing, the more 3-on-6, we want you to be highlighted on that map. And so we have made those levels to really show off the guys that are doing the most.
Awesome. Great. One question here. Can you go back a slide just for the information on email and phone numbers?
Yes.
Perfect. We'll leave that up there for the moment.
He just wants to look at my picture more.
Beautiful family.
Thank you.
All right. One other question that just came in was just about pricing on TRI. Our starter bundle is $4,995. That gets you the surgical kit, that gets you the implants and the screws. And I forgot to mention, everything we do, we like to call it a white glove experience. Like if you're staying at the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons, we don't charge for training. Everything we do, we include onboarding training for free. First training is free, which is virtual. Dr. Amir Gorgi is our clinical affairs director. He will do a virtual onboarding about our system and just kind of walk you through our system, the sizes, the protocols, the drilling, etc. And then when you have your first full arch case, whether it be 3-on-6 or not, Dr. Aman, who Dr. Locke mentioned earlier, Dr. Aman is also one of our clinical affairs directors, and he goes out. He's on the road this week. He's doing 7 arches this week of new onboarding, and he's gone from Montana to Michigan to Wisconsin back to Chicago. He's all over the freaking place, but one of our clinical doctors will come to you and actually do training at no cost. We're not there to teach you necessarily how to place implants unless you need a little help. Call it a mentorship. If you're good with placing implants, we're there actually to walk you through on the TRI system, and then help your staff take acquisitions on the scanning, do the 3D printing with design work, and make sure that patient is successfully treated through the TRI workflow with no multi-unit abutments. It is a little bit of a mindset change. That's why we onboard you with a clinical doctor. It's one of the most probably the biggest value proposition we have at TRI is we don't charge for training. We want to make sure that you are successfully onboarded, feel comfortable with the system, and then you start seeing results like Dr. Logan just had. I think that was all the questions. I'll wrap up here in closing, and then I'll pass it over to Dr. Logan if he has any other further comments. But in closing, I just made a few more notes here, and this is really important as I've been in implant dentistry for almost this is going on my 21st year in implant dentistry, and an additional 29th year in dentistry. I was a dental technician through high school, and I started my career in sales in 2007 and moved my way up and through management and ran and helped run Noble Biocare, Sprint Ray. I helped start the company Sprint Ray. And so when I looked at the industry across why did I join TRI, this is truly the most innovative implant in the last 15 years in dentistry. We are changing the game on how you practice dentistry. We're changing how you treat your patients. And you just saw on FP1 cases from 3-on-6 providers how they treat their patients different and why they demand a more premium price and they're getting it. I could tell you comfortably right now, parts of my family that are not so financially secure, I would never let them get an FP3 case again if their bone was still intact and they had good gums and bone. I would only recommend an FP1 now or a 3-on-6 provider doctor to go to because of the quality of work, the new products that are on the market like TRA implants. You saw that tissue development and bone development around those implants. The Onyx Tough 2 resin, right? A lot of those results of the Onyx Tough 2 resin is incredible. Good designers. All these components in FP1 dentistry is what's driving time to teeth being quick. Dr. Locke just showed you 3 to 4 months, final restorations. All of these technologies and these products are changing dentistry today. And I like to say repeatedly, TRI is the best story in dentistry in the last 15 years. And for all the doctors that hear it and see it and experience it, they get to really feel the difference of what traditional dentistry or traditional implants are compared to TRI. The cost savings is just a benefit. You're going to save money because you're not going to buy abutments. That's going to be a benefit. But the results to your patient is going to last a lifetime, and they're going to tell their friends and leave you great reviews and everything else that you're striving for. The TRI implant combined with 3-on-6, no matter what, is the best story in dentistry. There's not another FP1 course, another FP1 style 3-on-6 provider network like this in the nation. There's a lot of people teaching FP1 cases. It's kind of more traditional, scallop the bone, remove some bone, maybe keep the bone and do a full arch wrap. And I think Dr. Locke just proved tonight on why 3 independent bridges is better than any wraparound bridge in the industry today. So TRI and 3-on-6 is a great marriage. You guys got to see that tonight, and we look forward to working with you. You have the ability to reach out to us. We have your contact. You will be receiving a follow-up email from us within the next 24 hours. And to make contact, I encourage you to reply to us, set up a meeting independently. Let's walk through your system together. It's not a hard pressure sales by all means, but let's just walk through your system and what you're doing today. Let's take a look at it and where TRI might fit in some of those indications. And then maybe we can actually figure out a way to work together and onboard you yourself before the end of the year. That would be our goal. Our mission is to change implant dentistry with FP1 cases. That was the highlight of this tonight. So I thank you for joining us tonight over the last hour and a half. I appreciate everything, and I hope everybody has a great holiday season. Thank you, Dr. Locke.
Yeah, thank you guys. This has been awesome, and we hope to see some of you guys at the course and come join us. It's fun and it's incredibly rewarding to be a part of this movement to saving bone, and we hope you guys all join us. And we've really loved our partnership here with TRI in really an implant that I think is much better designed for FP1. It's awesome, and we are so glad to have it.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.